Good morning. It's November 29th, 2016. I will call the Wright County Board meeting to order. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The minutes of November 15th, 2016.
Chair, I'll make a motion, we approve the minutes unless somebody had a correction.
I second that.
Motion by Commissioner Burrell, second by Commissioner Houston. Any further discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. The agenda. Anybody have anything to add?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I would like to ask to be placed on the Personnel Committee agenda. I have a work comp issue that I would like to discuss with them, as well as just some information and about hiring practices that we have in the jail.
Okay, so consent agenda, do you know what this issue is, Lee? Are you familiar with
Yes,
this issue?
administration has been made aware of the
Okay,
issue.
so consent agenda A2, refer, I don't think I shut my phone off. Refer jail issues to the Personnel Committee.
Yes.
Okay?
Thank you.
Yep. Anything else come before the board? Or, excuse me, anything else to add to the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Delyden, second by Commissioner Potter. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. See, Derek, let that be a lesson to you with your phone.
He's trying to teach you
Yep.
what not to do when you're
See,
out
that was intentional. That was a teaching moment.
there. That's right.
The other thing is you can look around at the person next to you and pretend like it's them. And, you know, with kind of an offended look on your face, and that's the other thing you could do.
Normally that doesn't work though.
Okay, we did pass that motion for the agenda, correct? So now we're down to consent agenda.
Correct.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Delyden, second by Commissioner Houston. Any further discussion? Not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. 9:05 a.m. Chief Deputy Todd Hoffman. Sheriff Joe Hagerty, apparently. Sheriff Joe Hagerty. Did you think you weren't going to be here, Joe, or?
No, I was planning on being here. Wouldn't miss. Derek, Pat said it was a teaching moment. He's had over 20 years to try to teach me, and it just hasn't worked. You guys will have to tag team. Appreciate it, board. Today I'm here to present a plaque to one of our communication officers who's been with us for quite some time, answering 911 calls. Our comm center is probably one of the most difficult places to work in county government. You're really the first line for all the officers that are out there. You're their protector, and you certainly put people at ease when they call 911. And it's kind of the front end of our factory. If people are treated decent on the phone calling in, it's easy for them to call in. Of course, there are partners, and it will help in keeping crime low in Wright County. Judy's always had a real easy way with people, answering the phone, very caring and very, very good to work with. I've worked with her for over 25 years. It also happens to be her birthday today. I assured her I wouldn't tell her how many years. We had a real good party for her last week at our office. But Judy, why don't you step up here? Plaque that we have here is presented to Communications Officer Judy Brown for over 25 years of service to the citizens of Wright County and to Wright County. Now we'll be down to one Judy Brown in county government. A lot of times the emails get goofed up between Judy Brown upstairs and our Judy Brown.
Yeah. Thank you very much, everybody. I have to say, it has been an honor to serve this community and this county. And there are many days when you would go home and you feel like you've really done well, and there's other days when you question, could you have done better? But I will say, this job has been such a learning experience for me. Definitely was life-changing for me, and I was really lucky to be able to serve, and it's been really good to work under Jason, my boss, Sergeant Cramper, I should say, and Chief Deputy Todd Hoffman, and especially Captain Anselman. We go way back. So I just really thank you for the opportunity that I could serve, and I definitely am looking forward to the next chapter in my life. So thank you all.
Thank you. Commissioner Potter?
So Judy,
Pardon me?
so if it's a birthday today in 25 years, that means the sheriff hired you under abuse of the child labor laws. You were 4 years old at the time you were hired?
Well, I'll accept that.
Thank you and congratulations.
Yeah, thank you, Judy.
Congratulations, Judy, and best wishes. Looks like we're a few minutes ahead of schedule here. Committee minutes, Building Committee, Commissioner Potter.
Okay. Get down to that page. Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Building Committee met on November 16th, 2016. Member Presidents Potter, Delight, and Kelly. Others present, Wilczek, Matthijs, and Stevens. First item was the Public Works Deferred Maintenance and Remodel. Wilczek provided us an updated status of Public Works building modifications. Interior modification bids were open on November 15th. Wilczek was working through the bids to qualify the low bidder and verify the scope and the notes in the bid. A start date of November 5th was anticipated. Wilczek also stated that the spray foam installation on the east and west walls of public building are complete, and he'd shown us pictures of what was done prior to the frost kind of morning and where it wasn't, and it was a dramatic difference between the two, so that should be eliminating part of that issue. And then there'll be will there be a contractor installation or walkthrough on November 17th to verify the quality of application throughout the coverage. The LED lighting retrofit in the mezzanine is mostly complete. However, some lamps in the upper level still need to be converted. And the LED light fixtures in the wood shop, weld shop are ordered and be installed by the custodial staff when delivered. And anticipation is the week of the 28th in that neighborhood. Matthijs discussed several items for consideration, an estimated cost of $4,200 to complete the painting, the walls, the welding, wood shop, and a cost of $1,300 to provide new remotes, controllers, and reprogram the overhead doors in the shop. And Matthijs been working with Hegel Doors to identify the needs of the system. An estimate for the furniture for the new remodel areas of the building is $29,542 from Hero Office System. A proposal from ABF Alternative Business Furniture was also developed and expected soon. I didn't see that in the packet, so I'm not sure if they actually put one in there or if it was cheap or not. Scope work include dismantling the cubicles and everything else. And just in the interest of speeding this up, you can read the rest of this word for word online if you care to. The installation of a new drive-on truck lift at a cost of $10,999. Lift we paid for from the Parks budget. The revised proposal for rekey in the Public Works building from Russell Locke is $10,500. We had discussed with Mr. Matthijs about having Waverly Lock and Key, and there was no response or anything from there, so we did attempt to get a second bid on that. Delighted to discuss the door locations, and we were kind of going through and counting all the openings, and there was more than we realized. Okay, next item is Wilczek stated that B&B Roofing has completed the repairs on the EPDM roof of the structure recommended at the 25 meeting. Also, the dust collection system and the overhead door installations are complete. Next item was the Wilczek initiated discussion on the conveyor system at the recycling facility. It was stated at the previous board meeting the county would installing a tarp cover over the system to prevent water infiltration over the winter. Pictures were presented on that from before, what to do. And the Wilczek stated that Hatfield agreed that it's not a safe task for custodial staff given the size configuration of the equipment. Basically, it's built the opening of the building is 27 foot, and the concrete stem walls are about 9 foot high, and there's no way to maneuver a lift over that. So it'll be more to capabilities of having a contractor of some sort do that versus the custodial staff because of the sheer size and issues like that. The recommendations coming out of that was that we would delight in Potter to seek another painting estimate and proceed with the not-to-exceed cost of $4,200. And move forward with the door remotes programming with Hego. Move forward with furniture modifications with a not-to-exceed cost of $29,542. Proceeded with a new lift installation, cleanup of the old equipment, and proceeded with either Waverly Lock or Russell Lock on a rekey at the not-to-exceed cost of $10,500. It is also recommended the contractor takes the tipping floor structure down, installs a tarp and polymaterial over the conveyor. And the only thing was, so we talked, and if Mr. Matthijs, did Waverly Lock actually come with a bid?
Alan W. Contacted Waverly Lock, and he sent me a long email that we're not going to be able to bid that.
Okay, so that's to cover that question. They were notified, they chose not to. So with that, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes and the recommendations.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Potter, second by Commissioner Delighten. What is the cost going to be to have contractor cover the tipping floor?
That'll be a yet to be determined from what I understood, because it's,
Yeah, we're still trying to figure out who's going to be doing it. I don't know if that's been determined yet, because he was waiting to get information back from the subs. Lee, do you have a little more
I
information
don't really
on that?
have an update, but I know he was waiting on information from the subs and trying to determine who was going to be the one that takes care of doing that tarp. It's
Yeah, there was a problem with
going to be difficult.
getting some information back from the subs on tying the existing roof back in.
Steve, our sign people have a bucket truck, right? I guess if it's not a really reasonable price, I mean, all the stuff we do around here, and if the janitors aren't capable of doing it, the highway guys certainly are. That's like, you know what I mean? If I'm fine with paying someone a few $100 else to do it, but if this thing is gonna be something where someone tells us it's $5,000 to go put a tarp over the thing, then
Well, the problem is that the sucker is pretty high.
27 feet. How high does the bucket truck go? 40, 50?
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what does it matter if if the bucket truck goes that high or higher, it really doesn't matter.
You know, the bucket truck wasn't considered, it was the lift that they were talking about.
Oh.
The lift wasn't big enough.
Well, I'm just bringing it up now that if
Yeah.
somebody wants $5,000 to do it or $3,000 to do it, I mean, I think we can send a couple guys out there and probably do it in a few hours and,
That's the next.
for a
item.
matter of a couple $100
Correct.
for the price of a tarp, but just an option.
Yeah, because that was the first option, was the janitorial staff to do it, but the scope of the work was a little bit more than they could handle. So now we've got to go Plan B on this.
Again, I don't have a problem with what you're recommending as long as nobody's trying to take advantage of us. And I'm not suggesting that's gonna happen, but did anybody give you a price, or, well, Alan's not here, huh?
No.
Okay. Okay, anything else? We have a
Made a
motion?
motion and a second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Sunny Hess, HR Director.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. I would like to request to schedule a Personnel Committee of the Whole to discuss the proposed PTO policy for non-union employees. The Personnel Committee met on November 16th to follow up from the previous Personnel Committee of the Whole and try to finalize some of the details of the policy. We made some decisions, but there was not a consensus related to the accrual rates and maximums and how bereavement leave may work with that. So we'd like to bring that back to the Personnel Committee of the Whole to work through that part of the policy.
For the purpose just of having some stuff ready for the meeting, I guess I'll ask, because I certainly felt that way at the committee of the whole meeting, and I know that Commissioner Houston said that she didn't necessarily support it, but I believe it was a 4-to-1 deal, if not a 3-to-2, but didn't this board agree that the range was gonna be 21 to 33 for PTO? Wasn't that, you folks remember that? I specifically remember getting support here and got it from Charlie, and I think I probably got it from Mark too, and we moved on with that issue because I thought it was an important issue.
Actually, I don't recall anymore. I'd have to go back and look to see what it was.
Chair, a
all
little
about.
moment, for clarity on this, we agreed to that, but we wanted more information from more counties that were doing it, because we didn't have a real big.
Right, so.
Well, I
my-
think we
my
were really
recollection-
looking at it more relative to the
What
issue
counties
of.
included bereavement in their accrual rates and which
That's what
ones
we
didn't?
wanted, that's what we were trying to check. It was 21 to 33. Then we wanted to see if bereavement was included in there or not included in there and have a discussion on that. So I was kind of disappointed when we got to the committee and the range was at 23 to 35, which we had changed. And then the discussion of bereavement was on top of that. And that's kind of why we didn't get anywhere in the meeting, because we probably spent about an hour talking about what we had agreed to at the previous meeting, so.
And I think there was some confusion or misunderstanding among all of us on whether or not that 21 to 33 had actually been approved by the full board, or because we wanted to get more information, if that was still up for discussion.
Yeah, and I just missed that if it was approved, because I thought it was going back. So that's, perhaps I was a holdup, because I thought it was going back for more information, then we're gonna make a decision based on that and information or requests that we'd gotten from people that had weighed in on it. So I was taking that into consideration when I was sticking with my recommendation, but.
Well, when do
But
folks
anyway,
want to
we
meet?
can-
I think
we
this
can
needs to
look
get
at,
done.
Mr. Chair, just maybe a point to consider. We do already have a Personnel Committee of the Whole scheduled on the 13th at 10:30 to discuss elected officials' salaries. Just throwing that out as a potential option.
Sounds fine to me.
Otherwise, committee days the 14th as well. Just a few options.
With that, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to set a committee of the whole, Personnel Committee of the Whole meeting for Tuesday, December 13th. Do we want to follow the Committee of the Whole salary discussion, or do you want that in the afternoon?
It might be best just to schedule it in the afternoon.
Okay, 1 o'clock?
That works for
This
everyone.
issue? Oh, later on? Yeah,
Two options. We could add it to the existing agenda, or we could schedule it as a separate one
I
later
added to
on.
the
I don't
existing
know how.
agenda, but I don't know. It's-
I'm just thinking the 13th is going to be probably a larger board meeting, and we may run into the noon hour with the elected officials.
Better.
salary
You know
discussions.
what? Let's put it with the 10:30, and if it, we do the other ones first, we get to it when we get to it. If we don't get to it after lunch, we get to it after lunch.
Okay,
We'll
so,
just,
Put it forth on the agenda.
okay,
If we do the other three and we
That
get to
ten-
that one at, it's 12:30, we can do lunch if we want and come back.
Personnel
We'll-
Committee of the Whole to commence after the Committee of the Whole salary
Fourth
discussion.
item on the, it'll be the fourth item on there,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
There's
Correct.
3 salaries and that's it, and then
That's
that.
correct.
Thank you.
Someone want to make a motion on
I made
that?
motion.
You-
Motion by Potter, is there a second?
second.
Second by Houston, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Mark Matthijs. Park Director, good morning.
Morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Here today to ask you to adopt, over time, 3 resolutions. The first 2 deal with a grant application to the Transportation Alternatives Programs for Phase 1 of the Crow River Regional Trail, which is our aggregate portion along County State Aid Highway 17. We'd like to apply for a grant for that phase. The Crow River Trail, the entire master plan is currently out on links on the web pages and hard copies at the Delano Library for people to review and comment on prior to coming to you for final adoption. This section of trail in this grant program is 2021 funding. So what I'd like to do is try to apply for this, hopefully get accepted, and then offset some of those local matches with Park and Trail Legacy funds as that 2021 project year comes closer, if successful with the grant. The two resolutions in front of you for that project are a sponsoring agency resolution, which just basically says Wright County is sponsoring the application, and then the resolution agreeing to maintain the facility if funded, which shouldn't be a big deal. We've had to do a maintenance resolution anyhow for that section of trail when we first built it with the grant funds.
Say that last part again now. So if awarded, the Parks Department would look to secure additional grant funding to offset, should that be any local?
Yeah.
Okay, it says and local contribution. Okay, any local contribution, okay.
Don't read so close.
Don't read so close.
So how much do you, okay, very well. Any
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second it by having discussion.
motion by Delight, second by Burrell. Any further discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Chair. So Mark, when this, and then we're taking over the maintenance of the,
We
already do it, but I mean, we would continue
Yep.
with the maintenance. When this becomes a regional trail,
Correct.
will we always be responsible for this segment and Hennepin County will be responsible for another segment, or how will it get divvied up, or will it?
The
change.
trail crosses jurisdictions.
Right.
Substantially throughout. We will be responsible for those sections within Wright County.
Okay,
Three Rivers Parks will be responsible for the sections within
Okay.
their
I would-
jurisdiction.
that's already been worked out then.
Yep, that's all defined in the master plan, which was reviewed last Monday at the Park Commission meeting,
Okay.
2 Mondays ago at the Park Commission meeting.
Does that include areas within Wright County, within incorporated areas?
Those we'll be working with the cities on.
Okay, so we have the areas in Wright County in unincorporated areas.
Yep.
And the
according
cities
to
would
our
have
trail
those within,
plan.
okay.
Then we'll be working with Delano,
Okay,
Rockford, Otsego
okay.
on there.
And I like that because that's more consistent with our historic and overall approach to.
And to
the
answer
other
your other
trails in the
question,
county.
the estimated project cost for phase one is $600,000. We're requesting $500,000 in the transportation alternatives, which leaves a $100,000 local match, which we would go after legacy funds for that. So it's possible we could be at it like a 10% local cash match for this project.
And if there was a 10% local, would you expect that if like 4% of that was in this city and 7% in that city, they'd pay 4 or 7 and then we'd pay like 89?
This section is only in the unincorporated
Okay.
area at this
Okay.
time.
Okay. So this first one was a sponsor agency resolution. The next we're going to take the.
Resolution agreeing to maintain the
Yeah.
facility.
Okay, so everybody understand we're on the first resolution here
And
now.
then just one more question. Then, Mark, how many phases are there to this? I mean, till completion? It goes to, from the
Goes,
Loose Line Trail to Dayton, was it? Or how far will it go out?
yes, goes all the way to Dayton. City of Watertown, all the way to Dayton. So there's Carver County, there's Watertown.
Oh, so it's gonna go past the Loose Line Trail even? It's gonna go
It'll
further
be part of
south?
the Loose Line Trail going into Watertown. So the terminus, that'll all be considered part of the Crow River Regional Trail. Number of phases will all depend on money, timing.
That won't be done in our lifetime, Charlie.
It probably will not be done in my lifetime,
Really? Okay.
but we've got to start somewhere.
It doesn't seem that far.
Oh, but
30 miles.
there's some pretty spendy parts that have to be
Okay.
done.
Those are the ones that'll be.
Well, sometimes we just need to use common sense and maybe put it on the shoulder for a couple miles of the road or something
Well,
like that.
some of it is, but there's a bridge over the Crow River that's gonna really
Oh.
be spendy.
Yeah, well, that maybe,
That's the final
That'll be towards the ending of the project.
stretch.
This section will take us up to Delano and then into Delano, and then Three Rivers has a section in Lake Rebecca Park, so the
do you
first
think-
couple phases are gonna go fairly
Do you
quickly.
think Three Rivers will act on theirs relatively quickly then, or
Yes.
they do?
is that,
Because-
oh, go
Because,
ahead.
well, no, I was just saying, as soon as they do, they'll know that it will connect them up with the Loose Line trails. I mean, it's. you'd
So that's
think-
Carver County too.
Yeah, but there would be some incentive for them to do that, I would think.
So this trail or this bridge over the Crow, is that like cantilevered off a vehicle bridge or is that going to be a self?
Self,
Yeah. How much does something like that cost?
our anticipated cost on that is $4 million.
Yeah, I
Million.
don't know. Me-
Maybe that last phase might be tough to
I think
go.
you figure out a better way of doing that.
Can't, because the 101's a highway or a freeway.
So when the master plan's done, I'll bring all the alignment charts. I had them up here at one time with the draft master plan, but I'll bring
Like I
all the
said,
alignment.
I know
It'll
we've
be a
saw
while.
I know we've gotten that
Mm-hmm.
document before, haven't we, with the
Yeah.
proposed,
Yeah.
yeah.
We sponsored that in July, we adopted that.
Okay. Any further discussion? All, roll call vote, Commissioner Burrell?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution carries unanimous. Then resolution agreeing to maintain facility.
I'll make that motion. I'll second.
Motion by Delight, second by Potter. Any further discussion? Commissioner Burrell?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution carries unanimous.
The third resolution I'm looking at you to sign is to authorize myself to sign and enter in agreements with the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources related to the reconstruction of the fishing pier within Beebe Lake County Park. The fishing pier there has been a joint project for many years. The decking's deteriorating and stuff like that, so some of the floats are bad. They want to extend the maintenance, the fishing pier agreement out to 2041, which
I
is,
know I won't be here.
which is typical.
Oh, I wouldn't be so sure of that, Chris.
Well, maybe not.
Not on the board, but I mean, here,
Here, yeah.
So 2041, we will be rebuilding it this year, county labor forces, but they'll be supplying all the lumber and the floats and things like that to reconstruct it.
You'll be seasoned.
We've done this before, Schroeder Park, Clearwater Pleasant, the last few years, so this is,
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the resolution authorizing Parks.
I'll second it.
motion by Commissioner Potter, second by Commissioner Delyden. Any further discussion? Commissioner Burrell?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution carries unanimous.
all right, thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks, Mark. I'll say as an announcement, what is it, Thursday? The final purchases take place? Thursday morning, 8:30?
The closing?
And that's over again at,
Central Land Title.
where's that at?
Over by Klein Bank in Pomida.
Yeah.
Land
Yeah,
title. Central land title by,
Time again?
near
Yeah.
Old Palmyra.
8:30? Safe schools
Jan
that
Larson.
morning.
8:30, so if anybody's interested in joining us there at 8:30 for the historic final purchase. Okay, Tim Dahl, Risk Manager. Good morning, Tim.
Morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Before you today, I'm here to request permission to apply for a OSHA Safety Grants Matching Funds Grant. Background history: in April 2016, an employee suffered a severe injury while removing a sander box from a plow truck. The injury was caused when chains used to maneuver the sander box unhooked, causing the sander box to fall onto the employee. The Public Works Safety Committee, along with MCIT Loss Control, recommends a movable sander stand that's designed to hold the sander box in place during the installation and removal of the sander box. The grant we're seeking out is, like I mentioned, a dollar-for-dollar match up to $10,000. The county would have a need for 23 sander stands at a cost of $800 each, for a total project expense of $18,400. If approved and if we are awarded this grant, we would seek $9,200 from OSHA and $9,200 from Wright County budgeted purchases. With that being said, I wanted to see if there was any other questions from the board or anything else.
Mr. Chair,
Mike?
the last building committee meeting or the owners committee meeting, we got to look at those prototype boxes, and it seems to make a lot of sense why they didn't do it before is one of those why. But it did make sense to have those, not only for the safety of employees, but also you've got them on wheels, you can get them out of the way easy instead of having to have more manipulation. Mr. Chair, I thought that was a great idea to get those like that. And again, why wasn't it thought before? I'll make a motion to apply for the OSHA safety grant.
I'll second
Motion
that.
by Commissioner Potter, second by Commissioner Hewsome. So the $9,200 of county funds, is that coming out of the 100 safety budget, or is that coming out of the Public Works budget?
Specifically the highway budget.
Okay,
I don't know, Steve, if you wanted to add to that?
okay. Will that come out of your, like,
Committee budget that we have set each.
okay. Sounds good.
In the past, Steve, you normally were out there holding them up while they were unhooking them, and you just don't do that anymore?
So this one, kind of protocol wasn't quite followed.
Safety shoes on and it actually went on the arch of his foot. Actually from to the upright of his foot.
I'm surprised we haven't done something like this in the past, to hold them in place.
They've been around, but they've modified them now over the years that,
Well,
they'll work a lot better.
don't you have one or two of them over there right now?
No,
or-
we just have one that's a prototype. That
Oh, you had one that
we
was a
haven't
prototype.
paid for or
Okay.
nothing, so we just wanted to try it, make sure that it worked.
Okay, I remember seeing the one out there, but I didn't realize that we didn't actually own that one.
Yeah, that was a new standard system and stuff that we have on there.
Okay. So you didn't actually buy that one yet? So now you're gonna buy that one along with the rest of these, or?
Right, correct.
If we get the grant.
We wanted to,
Grant, and if not, then we'll decide something else, maybe budget item or something.
or phase them in. We have a couple ideas on how to handle that.
phase-
We wanted
phase 'em
to
in.
borrow one to make sure it actually worked, tried it out before we spent any money to make sure we weren't spinning our wheels. And we found out that it was actually really good. Didn't it also improve the time for installing and removing as well? Because they had the ability to have the stable unit to set it on. And then also too, the way I look at it, not to get into specifics about claim data, but, the money that's spent on a claim is all reactive. The county won't see any return on that. My thought and hope is by having the safety equipment, we'll also be able to be proactive and avoid a future injury. And then to Steve's point too, or somebody else's point, we're able to put the sander box on it, put it in the storage area. It's on wheels, less equipment that needs to be moving around. Just a lot of positive benefits just from having this product available.
Relative to the space needed, I mean, basically it's gonna take up the same amount of space either way?
Right, correct. What we'll do is we'll put it in front of the plow, up against the wall in front, we'll put everything there, the tanks and everything were going on that shelf that we have built. We'll have room now for this all.
And now, Steve, do they ever try to do this with sand in, or they always empty them out? They're always done empty?
This
And then,
actually happened, we were having like the trucks for the season, that's when this happened. We take them off and put them on, sometimes if we're hauling rock and we move them up and down, they adjust. This is just gonna be a safer,
I'm just,
more efficient way.
I'm just thinking if somebody now thinks this is no problem now, and then they start doing it with half a load of sand in, and then the stand gives out, so it'll be for sure nobody will do that. Tim, you'll put a directive out on that?
Absolutely.
Any further discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Thanks, Tim.
Thank you.
Virgil Hawkins, good morning, Virgil.
Morning, Chairman Swatsky and Board of Commissioners. Today, two items for your consideration. The first item is to review and approve minutes from the Owners Committee meeting on October 20th. And this was 2 meetings ago. We had another Owners Committee meeting since then. Just in summary, Ken Francis, Construction Manager, went over a project update, talked about where we're at with some open issues, the roofing, overhead door thresholds, trench drain grates, and hose reels. So he went through those items and then talked also about some punch list work, door locks, landscaping, investigating potential moisture in the walls. And also brought up the about $48,000 in rebates due to some energy efficient lighting and the equipment we have for the new building. Figured that into the budget, and we're still running about 10.8% under budget, which is about $1.8 million. And with that, if there's any specific questions on these minutes,
Do you need a motion for those owners committee?
Yeah, Mr.
I
Chair, I'll
think
make a
we
motion.
usually, Commissioner Potter moves to
second it.
approve. Is that both of them, or first one, or what are we
We do
on?
both of them.
Okay.
well, this is just
Well, we got 2 different sets.
the next set is for Transportation Committee meeting.
Okay.
We only have
This
one.
is-
Oh, we don't have our most recent owners committee meeting here then. Okay, so this is the October 20th owners committee, and second by Commissioner Delyden. Okay, this is, the 20th is the one where maybe the meeting didn't quite go as well as far as getting things done, but then the one that we don't have here, we got more done.
Yeah.
Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, just when we were out at the highway building, the great thing, I think, with the welding thing, I think is gonna take care of that. The only thing is there, you'll have to make sure they go back in the same place, that's correct?
Correct.
And the door, as far as the water, after looking at that, I mean, you guys made it sound a lot worse than it is. I don't think it's really gonna be an issue, and maybe this winter will prove that out.
That's what we'll find out over the winter.
Well,
On the heated part, anyway.
Right.
Well, with the rain that we've been having, is it coming into the building at all?
It is, a little bit.
it has to be.
But that's normal
But
when
not
you get
much.
a wind that blows it in, even
We
if it
don't know
was
if there was
sloped.
any wind, but.
Even if it was tapered away, my garage door is tapered away, and you get a wind from the west, which my door is the same there, it comes in. It's just, you know,
Is it coming in on the west, is it coming in on the east?
wherever the wind blows. I
Coming in
imagine.
all over?
Or does it come in everywhere, yeah?
And Commissioner Burrell, I don't think it was Mike or I that raised this as an issue, it was,
We raised it as an issue.
yeah, it was the
Yeah.
staff or the, you know,
Right.
Mortensen that came to
Yeah.
the thing and said, you know, we got a problem, it wasn't done right here, and
It
Yeah.
wasn't like, it's not like we have, you know,
No.
30-degree and they're gonna have flooding waters coming in.
Yeah.
It's more flat where, it, you know.
yeah, I don't
I
know.
think
You
our
could
main
get-
concern
You could
as a
get 3/4 of an
staff
inch of ice there, and then suddenly the door don't wanna come up, or the next thing, the door comes up, and then the threshold's all ripped up.
That's the
because it's frozen
concern, is
down.
the part that's not
The
heated.
heated
that
part,
if
though,
it
you'll never have trouble
Causes
with the door
icing problems
freezing.
with the
It won't
door.
freeze
And we'll find
underneath
out
it.
this winter.
Well, I don't know how close those heating panels are to the
They're
outside, and
about a foot away from, that's normally how they do it. It's about a foot from the edge of the cement, and that will transfer heat out, so it will never freeze under the door. So, anyway, but we'll find out this winter how it
You want
performs.
to bet?
Correct.
You won't find out?
it'll freeze.
You said you
It
want to
won't
bet it?
freeze.
You want to bet?
We're gonna have a winter?
I'll bet you.
I have in-floor heat in the car wash, and my car wash freezes.
Well,
Doors down.
you installed it, Rob.
Oh,
Yeah, I think it's gonna freeze too, but we'll
I
see.
have it on the inside and the outside. I have the aprons also heated.
I just,
Yeah, I don't know, I think if they can put some good
When-
thresholds down that will really hold and last for decades in place, I think that would be best of all, but,
there is.
because I think you pointed out when you were out there too, there's an area for water to go into the side on where the flashing
You know,
building comes down too.
it will depend on how they routed the tube, because I know in my garage, my brother does this for a living, and the first thing you do is you come in and you go around the outside perimeter, so that's the warmest spot. The hot water hits there first, so if you went around the rest of the floor and then came around on the outside, maybe there'd be a possibility, I don't know. Anyway, but I'll do lunch with you anyways.
So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, pose same sign. Okay, then we got Transportation Committee, the whole minutes.
Yeah, thank you. The next request is to review minutes from the Transportation Committee of the Whole, November 1st, and act on recommendations. Just in summary here, the first item we talked about was a utility setback ordinance. And thanks to Greg Kreiser to put together some changes in what we have. And this proposed ordinance is designed to help protect the public from undue expenses due to utility relocations by requiring utility companies to be a certain distance back from our highways. And if not, then they could seek a variance, and that would allow us to have input on if we're going to rebuild a highway so they don't get too close, and we have to pay to relocate later. And so Greg presented some paperwork with some ordinance revisions. It was the consensus of the committee to that Wright County adopt a setback ordinance and amend ordinance amendment number 16.8 to chapter 155 zoning to define exemptions as presented in the attachment here at the meeting.
Did
That
you
was
have
one, that was one item we
do you have a
talked about.
scheduled date then for a public hearing? It'll be in December. I mean, we need to set it here at some point, don't we?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, this has, I believe it's up for a public hearing before the Planning Commission in December, whenever their
Okay,
Planning Commission next meeting is.
so it's
I think
going
in a
through the
couple
planning
weeks.
commission,
Yep.
okay.
It's a zoning ordinance, so they'll do the public hearing and then be referred to you, I'm assuming by the end of the year.
Thank you.
Is that it, Virgil?
That was one item. That was the first item. The second item we talked about was an informational item. Right now,
we're applying for some federal funding programs for our highways. One's a Transportation Alternatives Program. We're supporting an application by the city of Albertville for a pedestrian bridge across I-94 on Highway 37. And then this HSIP application, Highway Safety Improvement Programs, we're applying for some mainline dynamic warning signs. And then the FAST Act, we're going to be applying for money for the improvements to Highway 19 in St. Michael, the ultimate improvements there by the corner bar. And this is all for year 2021 funding. So that was an informational item. The next item we talked about was recommendation of updating our transportation study. We have a Northeast transportation study that was done in 2004 and 5, and it's in need of updating with all the growth we've had in the northeast part of the county. And it was the consensus that we proceed with getting an update completed with the buy-in and financial assistance from the partners we had back in 04 and 05, the cities in the area and MnDOT. And then additional to that, we got on the topic of Highway 9 around Waverly. And then at this meeting here, we set a date to go look at that, and that was done on November 16th. Then the last item we talked about was to resolve the request for additional architectural engineering fees by HCM for the new highway building. There was a recommendation that payment be made in the amount of $7,500, which is less than what was requested.
Were they okay with it, that? Or, I mean, it's something, it was not, we didn't totally say no to them, but it was like half of what they requested. I mean.
Well, I guess one way to put it's better than a poke in the eye.
Yeah.
To get something, I guess.
So the answer to Virgil is he hasn't been able to find them for the last 4 months, so he doesn't know. That's the answer?
Virgil,
I know the discussions, Mr. Chair, I had with Dan from HCM. I had made him aware of the action because he had inquired on the status and was disappointed, I think, but yet happy knowing that they'd incurred some costs on this to specific subcontractors that they were able to pay that. So I would characterize it as a little more than better than a stick in the eye.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes and the recommendation of the committee of the whole.
I'll second that, but I did have one more.
Motion by Potter, second by Burrell. Charlie?
Virgil, on the County Road 9 project, we did go out and look at that, and I guess what I don't know where to go with this. Maybe I'll just have a talk with you later. I mean, I know it's a budget issue, but I think people in general too, we're going to see Waverly will come out and do this project, and then we'll come out and put a nice layer blacktop over, and then, then we have to reconstruct it later and tear up all. I mean, it just makes sense to do this at this time, and if it's moving a project back a little bit and putting this one up, because of the infrastructure that they're doing under, I hope there's a way that we can work that out, and I don't know if it's something that
I agree.
don't want the ball dropped.
It's all about priorities, and as a highway engineer and concerned for safety, I'd love to be able to build all our highways to state aid standards. I know that's likely not realistic with our funding that we have available, but ultimately it's up to the board to decide which highways we want to build and come up with the funding for it.
Okay.
Well, there are certainly roadways that there's no reason to build them to state standard.
Correct.
It would be a waste of taxpayer dollars to do that. And furthermore, the people that live on them probably wouldn't necessarily want them to those standards because it would they'd see it more detrimental to their property than having the road be at that standard.
I mean, and the point that I made on the one where you're going to be tearing up the good blacktop when we do it, that's one thing. But with the traffic that's on that road, it really is. I mean, I'd hate to be the one to say, gosh, if we would have done that a couple years earlier, these two kids on their bikes wouldn't have been killed or whatever, a good chance.
And just for the benefit of everyone here, the main concern is building it to state aid standards. The city wants to have a separated sidewalk behind the curb.
Which would make things a lot.
Which is what we'd be in favor of also, but to do that comes at a cost.
Yeah.
Right now, the city's got a plan in place. They're ready to bid and build the project next year, and we'll pay for the pavement because that's what we had.
And I see the mayor from Waverly is here today too, but they need to know on this. So maybe I'm just reach out to the board to see if we can act on this, because they need to make a decision here by probably the end of the year or January at the latest.
But just to be clear, Charlie, if we progressed as the city had suggested before and kind of what Virgil's saying now, there wouldn't be any tearing of anything up later.
That would be the fix for long-term.
I mean, that would just be what would be considered, you know, I mean, it's not like I presume nobody's gonna come back in 3 years and then build it to state aid standards. That
Our
roadway
lifetimes.
would be in place for a number of years, you know, I would think
Typically,
at
we
least,
get back to roads in
it'd be in
20,
place for at least
25 years.
you know, 15, you know, for a period of years, but,
It's just, I think it's just a project that I think warrants the attention, and I'll just, like I said, I'll reach out to the board to put that on
Mr. Chair?
yes.
Now, the city doesn't have the funding to put in the sidewalks, or were they going to do a little bit of additional blacktopping?
That's what there is planning.
That's what your plan was?
It would be wider shoulders.
Shoulder,
Right-
a paved
Essentially,
shoulder.
right now, as we saw, there's no shoulders out there at
No,
all.
so what we are gonna be doing is, so we are gonna be making it wider,
Correct,
but we're not bringing it out to state aid
State
standards.
standard.
correct. It wouldn't be brought to state aid standards necessarily. There'd just be a wider shoulder, I think 5 feet, that would allow pedestrians room where there's currently no room.
Okay, now, if we do that, do we still have to do some of that retaining wall and stuff that we were talking about? Is that where the costs are gonna be? No.
And that's,
Okay. Okay, so we are gonna make it a lot safer
well,
with what our plan is.
It'll be an improvement on what's there now.
it would be a lot better if it was done
Just so we're clear,
kind of the right way.
Mayor, the city is okay with doing it the way you're proposing to do it now? And you're still okay with that, even though there's been talk about, well, maybe there could be a lot bigger project that's more expensive and encompassing, you're still okay with doing it the way you've originally proposed?
If the larger project is not proceeding.
Yeah. Yeah. Has the city taken a position on whether they want the larger project or the smaller project, or you're not sure because you probably don't know the full cost or something?
We would
Yeah.
not know the cost of the work.
Okay,
We do know the cost of the smaller project.
sure. Well, yeah, and relative to well, first of all, you're gonna have some, costs of acquisition of property.
There'd be
Very
right-of-way
possibly-
cost and
Very
retaining
possibly
wall.
condemnation, would you agree, Virgil?
It depends on, how successful we are with landowners, but our estimates, just ballpark with our staff, is it would add $1.2 million to $1.4 million to the project.
How much of that is the counties and how much is the cities?
Well, that would all be negotiable.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the city doesn't have the funding available at this time. But would we be able to work out a deal where we could take care of it and do it right and be done with it? And then the city would be able to pay us back over time, with some of the state aid funding or some of their city funding or whatever that they get from the state?
No,
you
but-
don't?
Yeah, they don't.
But we would on
MSACs are gotta be over 5.
we could get, if we get the state aid project, the state aid money, that costs directly to the county, it would just be putting this project ahead of another project somewhere else.
But we still have the funding formula that the city would be responsible, no different than if it
Yeah.
was anywhere else. And I don't know, what are, for example, retaining walls, are they
So-
city cost?
That's a good question. Retaining wall with our current updated policy is 50/50, so we pay half. Sidewalk, now, depends on you look at it, because the retaining wall is needed because of the sidewalk. And sidewalk's 100% city. So
Oh.
then is the retaining wall part of putting the sidewalk in?
Oh, I
which
get,
would be
sure.
100% city cost. So there's different ways to look at that.
Then, Mr. Chair, to throw another wrench into this whole plan here, it was also identified in 2011 on the bike and trail program with the county parks that was public hearings and voted on before around Waverly Lake, just like around Howard Lake and a few other, we brought the map up on
So
the
there-
Highway 12 corridor.
There could be trail money available for this then.
Well, Trail, oh, if you went and applied for it from the.
Well, that's usually.
Yeah, but you'd be looking
3 or
3, 4 years
ahead
off.
of time.
Yeah, they can't wait that
But
long.
even still, you'd be looking at probably delaying this project a year if you went and looked at this new layout, because you're gonna have to start negotiating with property owners, and there's a very good chance that
Right.
property owners, considering how tight that property is, you may have some issues of condemnation you don't otherwise have, and you potentially could prolong this quite a bit.
And the impetus of the project is really the utilities that the city has, and I don't know how feasible it is to wait a year to figure that out and talk
But you
about
couldn't get
funding.
that done this year with all those things
No.
you'd have to take care
I
of,
think,
Virgil. You'd
I
have to
think
agree with that.
the city said though, they could put it off for another year, they'll get by, I know Jim, said the maintenance guy said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And right now, the city engineers put together a complete set of plans, about 100 plan sheets, and it's ready to bid. And we would, you know, if we did something different than that to meet state aid standards, we'd likely look at the city to make changes, have their city engineer make the changes necessary to meet the state aid standards, and then enter into an agreement with the city.
I don't think you have room there. And I don't think those people that live in those cabins along there are gonna want a wider road. They're not gonna want it. I don't think the people on the other side that are gonna have a big giant drop off. I think in the end, when you bring the people into the room, the neighbors are gonna push back big time on it. I mean, I don't know, maybe,
That's not what I'm hearing.
that's not what you're hearing?
Why don't we ask the
And-
mayor?
and
She
Mr.
may
Chair, I
have a
mean-
better
Connie,
handle
maybe
on it.
come up, I guess.
Well,
They do need a walking area because it's.
maybe they don't know how it's gonna impact them yet, but
Yes, they do. We've had 2 public meetings on this project.
talking about the bigger project, how that would
Oh,
impact
the
them.
larger project, no. We have not brought that up to anyone. I've mentioned it to the council after our meeting, but until we know what costs are, what the probability of proceeding is, why, you know, we really can't have a public meeting on it. The people along Highway 9 do want a wider road, yes. They actually would like a lower speed limit too, but that's not probably in the cards. But they are happy with moving it, you know, with extending it for 5 feet, because at this point in time, they believe that's the only thing that can be done, because that's what we presented to them after our own engineering plans. So that's, you know, they would like the larger, and everyone wants to have some safer mechanism of being able to go around the lake and use that area, because they're using the road now.
Well, the other thing I'm saying is that the property owners right now don't know the impact of that larger road on their
No,
property.
they would not.
And
do
they
not.
might find out that once they've seen the impact, that they didn't necessarily like that impact,
It's possible.
you know?
Anything is possible.
You know, instead of guessing, why don't you have some conversation with some of those homeowners, just to feel them out, you know?
We
Because,
can certainly do that.
you know, we can put this on hold. I mean, another couple of weeks or a month isn't gonna,
We're going to, as things stand now, we intend to bid, if we proceed next year, we're going to bid the first part of February.
okay, so we have some time where you could talk to those homeowners and feel them out. You know, if they're not, if they're gonna fight us, then we're gonna have some major issues.
You
It
may
not be
have
worth
more of
doing
an
it.
issue on the township side where you want to acquire land.
Yeah.
Well, if you're shifting it all that way, that's where you'd have it, if you,
And you're
if you
gonna
shift
have to
everything
sh-
that way.
Yeah, you're gonna
Right.
almost
Yeah.
have
But
to
was
shift
that
everything
all?
that way.
There's no room to shift it.
You
to the
can't
lake.
shift it
You
into
have
the
to do it.
yards, or you cannot shift it any further
No.
west.
And
You
definitely,
just
I mean,
can't.
if that's the way you're shifting it, that's where you're gonna have the issue.
But
Yeah,
there
in
was
the
some,
west side.
there was some that was in the city that was gonna have to be also, wasn't it? Wasn't that, that very first stretch?
The very
Out of
first
Waverly?
stretch is in the city, and yes, there
That
would
was,
be.
there was a big hill there that's gonna have to have a retaining wall or something.
Correct, that's
Okay,
correct.
so that's the one that you can talk
That is
with.
the one that I.
The
can
other
talk
one.
with. The other ones
ar-
are all in the township.
Right, in the other area, there were no houses or homes. The only one I can remember is right there in that very
Where we were
beginning.
pulled in, yeah.
And that was in the city limits.
No, that's on the
Right.
township.
That's in the
Township.
township.
That's the
That's the
township
first
side.
The township,
House
the line, I know, it's a little fuzzy, but
Yeah.
the line.
That's
There's
really
one
tough.
house in the city and the rest are all in the township.
So I would be fine with that, and then is it something that we could have Virgil do some preliminary pricing on?
Well,
and get
Virgil
some-
already has some
We've done that.
preliminary.
Just from past projects, we've had our right-of-way agent and assistant engineer.
So maybe you could come back with some numbers to us too then?
He already told us to be 1 point.
To 1.4 million additional.
Okay, but then look and say how much of that would be qualified for state aid and Or would it all?
Well, either
Not
still,
state aid.
it's, I mean, we're,
Well, it would all be eligible.
it would be eligible,
It
but,
would?
We're
Yeah.
balanced with our state aid account, so.
It's
Yeah.
just a matter
but it's
of,
basically gonna end up in the levy because we use all the state aid anyhow, so.
so it's a matter of what you're willing to give up on another road in your town.
Yeah, I mean, you can
In your
give up something
district.
else, or you can add it to the levy, because we've already used the state aid money, so it's one of those two.
Unless there's an
But-
appetite for a local option sales tax or some other funding source.
There would be no appetite for a local option sales tax. None. I can
Okay.
guarantee that.
I guess it's,
Well, thank you very much for
Thank you.
thanks,
taking
Connie.
care of that
Thank you.
today, because I will agree with you on that one. Okay,
So I will get that information.
I think we have a motion second. So.
we got a motion and a second on the minutes?
Yes, you do.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Aye. Motion and minutes carry 4-1.
Thank you.
What part didn't you like?
Item 5. The change in terms and conditions of the architectural contract.
Oh, the 7,500?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Consistent with his talk all along. Now, Commissioner-elect Edel's another lesson to Commissioner Swatsky, true to his principles all the way through the process. He objected to that day one and right to the final.
I objected to them doing it before they even signed the contract, and they ended up doing it to us in the end anyhow.
Well, we didn't give them everything though, Pat, so.
Oh, no, I understand.
Thought we could
I'm
thought we
just
could
telling you,
bring
I
around
just.
on that.
So moving on,
No. Greg Kreiser, Assistant County Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I'm here to ask that we schedule a assessment hearing, public hearing. Proposed date is December 20th at 9:30.
December what?
What's that?
What, December what?
20th.
20th, just during the board meeting. Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to set that public hearing for proposed assessments December 20th at 9:30 a.m.
I'll second it.
Motion by Commissioner Potter. Second by Commissioner DeLeyden. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Thanks, Greg. Yeah. Lee Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In your packet before you, you have the contract that was worked out with BKV Group regarding the architectural design for a courts facility. Many discussions were had between various members, both of the bench and the court side and administration, and a few of those on the board as well in developing this. And I feel that we've accurately reflected the desires of all those parties in putting this contract together. So today I brought this before you for a recommendation of signing that and moving forward with the project.
Okay, and just one thing relative to changes in terms and conditions, since we just kind of passed a motion to change them on one, Lee, can you verify my statement, because you were in the room when we talked to Mr. Schwartzman about that issue, and his basic statement was, for something to change the terms and conditions of this would have to be something as significant as them doing all the plans and drawings and us telling them that they would literally have to move the building to a different location. That was Mr. Schwartzman's statement, right?
Yes, that's my recollection of that discussion. And also I should note under 4.2, they did put in a statement about no additional services will be approved unless written approval's been given by the county. So I
So
think
we
that
shouldn't
covers.
have that issue. We've expanded the square footage to a potential of 100,000.
That is correct, yes.
To verify in fact that if something does get tweaked up a little bit, that it shouldn't be an issue. There's no way we should go above the 100.
The only question I would have is asking them, is there anything that they could foresee other than, or is that the answer you got, other than moving the building, that they could foresee having to charge us additionally?
Well, that was the sort of things he said that it would have to be something as significant as that. A
Moving the
little,
building,
you know.
Okay.
In fact, I think I probably had commented to him that we were in the middle of one with a different architect where there was, something was kind of done with an alternate and that sort of thing, and it kind of came up, and, oh, no, you know what I mean? So, and we pointed out that's why we wanted to raise the number to 100,000, because we didn't want to add a few square footage and have that change terms and conditions. He did indicate that oftentimes the federal reports have a little bit of fluff in some areas. Sometimes they kind of reduce some of those sizes. Historically, they found that out. And maybe some areas that need a little bit more space too, so they kind of refine those numbers, but typically, there's a little more size there than they need. I think we felt comfortable with the discussion, and like I say, it seemed like in the end, they did a heck of a job sharpening their pencil to get the job. They really wanted the job in the end, so. Is there a motion to approve the document? And I presume Brian has looked through it and all that?
Correct. It was reviewed by the attorney's office a couple times, actually, as well as risk management relative to the insurance pieces. So all of our requests had been met regarding insurance.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that with comments.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Burrell, second by Commissioner Potter. Comments?
Mr. Chair, in the BKV group staff rates, in that I was looking for and I was failing to see the IT part of this, because that's going to be a big concern within this building. And I alerted Lee on this. I was hoping to get some information on the IT, because that's a subcontract that they have. I want to know that part of the equation. Where is that at?
Do they have the other subcontractors listed in there, Mike, as far as rates? Because
I didn't see it on the,
In the list here.
unless it's sitting here somewhere, and I just didn't, I'm not seeing it.
yeah, and relative to rates, I'm not even sure why it matters, because we're pretty much dealing with a lump sum number.
That is true. I will say on page 17, they do have a list of their staff rates, the hourly on that, but I guess my sentiment would be, along with Commissioner Sawatsky's, that we are on a not to exceed relative to this project, but I can certainly, I haven't gotten
I
a
just want to
follow-up
make
from
sure
them
it's
on
not
that
something
yet.
that gets forgotten, and all of a sudden later, hey, wait a minute, it's not in the document here, it's the IT, you're
Okay.
way over. I just want to make sure we got that covered here.
And it is worth mentioning, because as we all have agreed, that is a very critical part of this project, as certainly that's an area our current facilities have been lacking in, so it will be a focus of the project.
So that's my comment I had to make, Mr. Chair.
And Mr. Chair, perhaps it's listed in one of these things that's not specifically IT, so, I mean, is it EIT?
Yeah.
Mechanical EIT?
EIEIO.
Well,
I just want to make sure that it's noted that that's a concern of mine, because the IT.
well, okay,
is a big
so
component.
we'll include in our motion that, it's the contract contingent upon that IT component is obviously in here as we,
Yeah, 'cause I
as
want-
it was proposed and as we, as they proposed to us, that it's in here then. You want to include that in the motion in the second then?
I'd like to, I just want to make sure we got that part covered, because I don't want to make a mistake there.
And Mr. Chair, I guess one other, we do have our kickoff meeting that we will schedule, and I think that's a critical point to make sure that we clarify relative to client goals and expectations. That is a big
Communications,
priority.
Data design architect, so.
And Mr. Chair, that certainly was part of the discussion when we met with all the,
Yeah, well, it says
We
it's their
interviewed all-
responsibility right there.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I think that one of the judges would have some comments.
Do you have a comment, or are you just waiting in case we have a question for you?
I do have a comment.
Judge McPherson, come on up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the.
I wasn't trying to ignore you, I just didn't know if maybe you were trying to get closer to the discussion in case.
I was just waiting for a pause,
Okay,
and
yep.
then I was going to jump in. And I apologize to Mr. Kelly that I didn't have the opportunity to discuss this with him, but with the Thanksgiving holiday, I was chambered in Stearns County last Wednesday, so I didn't have an opportunity to talk with him directly about this. But I do have a concern on page 9 of the contract under the chart that's there, that under Article 4, Section 4.1.1. Specifically, in the final column of that chart, it says that confirmation of previously prepared information only, that defines the scope. And our RFP had a very specific list of requirements gathering that we expected the architect to do. And so I think somehow we should incorporate that scope item into this contract. And I think it could be incorporated there, or another spot that it could potentially be incorporated is on the signatory page, which is page 20, where it lists other documents that are, included within this agreement. We could list the RFP there. But I do want to make sure that, I do think we have a meeting of the minds with Mr. Schwartzman. I'm not concerned about that at all, but I am concerned that it doesn't actually appear in the contract.
Do you have that language in front of you from the RFP? Do you have that document with you right now that you could read what it states specifically there? Or?
It's quite a long list, but it
Okay.
says that for the requirement gathering, I don't have it with me, but it lists all the different areas that we're going to include in that building that they need to do the requirement gathering for.
Okay, so your hope then is to add a statement that specifically references that page?
That, the RFP itself, because the
Or
county.
the entire RFP?
Yeah, because it's a document
Okay.
that we had people give us bids on. And
I
so the
understand.
scope that we put into that document should be part of this agreement.
No.
At least reference it for if there's any dispute or any question.
Right.
Back here.
Well,
That's what we intended.
just so that we haven't expanded beyond the RFP in some area, and then that becomes their advantage that, well, this line here says what is in the RFP is what is, and the RFP said, you know what I mean? Because we've kind of talked and confirmed some things that have been arguably an expansion beyond what they've specifically agreed to perhaps in the RFP, so can that cut both ways?
It can, and I think you have to rely on the county attorney for legal advice in that regard. But I do think that the RFP is broad enough that it doesn't limit us, but it clearly identifies that all of these different components need to be included in the requirements gathering that's performed by the architect. Because some of those items were not included in the National Center for State Court reports. For instance, the Department of Corrections, the National Center said that's outside the scope of what the work that they did. Well, in our RFP, we included it within the scope. So that's some examples of areas where the National Center didn't do the work, but we want the architect to do that work.
Sure. Okay. Again, and I'm fine, so what would this sentence state then, Judge McPherson?
I think it could be as
Draft
simple,
something?
and I would certainly defer to the county attorney because I can't give you any legal advice, but I think the reference of the RFP under Article 13, where it says this agreement is comprised of the following documents, and there's a paragraph 3 that just says other documents, we could just list the RFP there. We don't have to put any
Okay,
special
so
language.
tell me what page this is on now?
This is on page 20, right above the signatures.
Page 20.
Other documents, very top thing. Toward the-
We could just refer to the request for proposal dated, whatever the date was.
And then we could just say the request for
Okay,
proposal
so point 3,
dated
other
whatever.
documents, so list, so there's none listed right now, so since,
And just
well,
put,
right now there's Exhibit A, initial information, additional scope. So right now, including Exhibit A, so is there an Exhibit A in this document? Initial information, where is this initial information at? Or is that something that is just a hypothetical, or is there actually a document that has initial information?
Nope, that's
There is-
boilerplate from the AIA.
Correct, yep.
Is there an Exhibit A?
Yes, it is, right here, table of articles, Exhibit A, initial information.
Oh, okay, so there it says Exhibit, okay, but then it doesn't. Exhibit A, initial, but ultimately, is there an Exhibit A then anywhere?
It's my understanding that this is the boilerplate of the AIA contract.
References one, you know, I mean, that Exhibit A, but is there an Exhibit A somewhere else in the back of the document that actually has that initial information on it?
No.
No, okay.
So Exhibit A could be the RFP.
Correct.
Well, or it could say Exhibit A, initial information, comma, RFP, the RFP for the project from
Dated.
dated whatever,
Yeah.
comma, and additional scopes of services, if any, forming part of the agreement.
Are we okay putting this off for a week and having Brian look at it, or
Well, we don't meet next week, so that'd be 2 weeks.
2 weeks?
So if we just make it with those changes, if Brian okays it, we could just go forward with it,
Could do that too.
you know, because that way it makes it go faster.
So somebody, whoever made the motion, should include the RFP under other documents as a,
Or does it need to be in a contract, or can we just include that to them, that the Wright County Board of Commissioners, when we send it back, has signed this document contingent upon, one, IT being in this as we understand it to be, and two, all services provided for in the RFP are also included in here.
I would think that would be reasonable to be able to do.
Can we do it that way?
I can't give you legal advice. Sorry.
Well, we
Because
can
you
sign
don't
it
know, or
and-
because you don't legally represent
Because
us?
I am legally prohibited from doing so.
She's not an attorney.
Well, I understand. No, I don't believe that.
She's not a real attorney anymore. She's just a judge.
If someone were to come before you in your courtroom and that document was attached, would you consider that document to be a legal and in standing?
Commissioner-elect, this is something I would like you not to learn.
My arm hurts right here
Well,
too when I do this.
I guess I don't know what the board wants to do. We want to wait 2 weeks on this or not?
I don't want to wait 2
No,
weeks, but
I think just put that as the addendum, A, and
well,
let them
I just
know.
saw Judge Tenney walk by. Maybe he'll give
Yeah.
us some advice.
And you do notice that Mr. Kaiser left us here.
Yeah, he went running.
Now he's coming back. He's hoping the issue is done.
No, this is
Oh.
Judge.
Say, Judge, we're looking for some legal advice. Would you support him?
Not allowed to give any of that.
Good answer.
We didn't plan that ahead of time.
Well, how about the motion include that, one, that it's consistent, everything in the RFP is still in play and that, which includes the IT.
yeah.
Right.
So I don't think we need that, everything is in there. That, we can forget about adding the IT component because it is in the RFP.
RFP, and that's Commissioner Burrell was the motion maker on this.
Oh, you were, he seconded.
So, and what you will do, Lee, is you will then send an email to Mr. Schwartzman indicating that the board has approved this, provided,
Did.
Really?
Your second.
that everything within the RFP is still in there, and you can mention specifically that there was concern about those two things, and then when Mr. Schwartzman confirms to you in an email that in fact all those things in the RFP are still in there, then at that time I will sign the document.
Okay.
Okay, fair enough, folks?
Yep.
Fair enough,
Okay,
That'll
so
be
then we
my
won't sign it
motion.
until that time, and I have direction not to sign it until we get that confirmation back, and then that confirmation will have occurred in writing, and that'll work for us, and Mr. Schwartzman is an honorable man, so he will live by that.
That'll be my motion.
Okay, so.
You okay
Oh,
with that,
we
Ben?
we already had a motion second, so you're including that in your motion then, okay.
And I'll include that in my second.
Okay, any further discussion?
Yeah, can I have Susan read that motion back to me?
In summary, I will verify in terms of the contract relative to the RFP,
Yep.
Came, they
writing
talked.
with Mr. Schwartzman.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion carries unanimous. And then scheduling a committee of the whole meeting on 12/15 to kind of have a first talk with,
Yes, Mr. Chair, that's
BKB.
correct. We'd like to have the kickoff meeting December 15th. 12:30 would be the proposed time. We've kind of set a date as it's going to be a lot of different parties in the room, and it's easiest to just set a date and go. I believe that will work, so.
12:30 on the 15th, committee of the whole.
Mr. Chair, I'll make the motion to schedule committee of the whole meeting of December 15th, 2016 at 12:30 to do the courts facility kickoff.
I'll second it.
Motion by Potter, second by Delight. Any further discussion? And I know there was kind of a little agenda that had been floating around out there, and I don't know that we have that.
It did not
this
come in the
packet or
packet,
not,
but I'm thinking that most efficient way to maybe do this is about the first hour, hour and a half. We do the first two proposed items, which are team introductions, and then talking about client goals and expectations. And then other items listed, the bidding and construction process, the owner activities and consultants, county standards, site review, reviewing the program from the National Center of State Courts, talking about the schedule of the project, if we wanted to do some additional court tours. And then BKV had proposed that we actually go out to the jail LEC and look at the site, walk around a little bit, both inside and outside.
Okay, and one thing that's not on there that I think ought to be on there, I think there ought to be a plan then moving forward relative to who's going to be on the committee or the team that's going to kind of oversee it then as the process occurs.
Well, I think we did discuss that already.
Right.
Do we already have that established? I don't remember us having that
Yeah,
established.
well,
Yeah,
whether
Commissioner
it was
Potter and
formal or
Commissioner
not,
Burrell
yeah.
had stated at the,
We had talked at a
Okay,
previous
they're not going
committee
to
of
have
the
anybody
whole.
else on there with them from the courts or from
Well, that's
law
just
no,
enforcement?
us.
they-
That's just us on the board
Yeah.
here.
No, yeah, but I'm talking about the whole team. Who's the whole team?
no,
gonna
they,
have?
I think the judges were going to tag team it.
But that'd be
Okay.
that'd be a good thing to formalize at that 15th
Well,
meeting.
okay,
It
so
would,
is there going to
yes.
be someone from court services?
Yes.
Ooh, how many?
Yeah,
You- you-
fine, okay. Yeah, I got you.
And Mr. Chair, I think you make a good point, because we should also define at that kickoff meeting how decision-making is going to happen. You know, is everybody who's participating in that process going to have a voice in that decision or not? Or who is going to have that voice? So,
What things need to come back to the board? What, I mean, we always kind of set some threshold for things or, you know, or different. Maybe it's too early because construction is still, from that standpoint, is still, you know, quite a ways off yet, I guess, but yeah, what things have to come back to the board and what things is that group going to have authority on?
right. In particular, you know, like we have to make some decisions early on about how many courtrooms you want to shell out. And so that's one of the, you know, do you want that to come back to the full board? That might be an example of something you do want to come back to the full board. So I think that would be great.
Very well.
Mr.
Okay,
Chair,
yes.
I would formally like to invite the future county commissioner to make sure that he's at that meeting too. I think
It's
it'd
a
be,
public meeting.
I think it'd
12:15
be,
and
I think
12:30.
it'd be very good for you to be at that one. Good.
Did we make a motion on it already?
Yes.
Yes, it was motion.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Now.
Personnel Committee, Christine.
All right.
Thank you, Judge McPherson
Yeah,
and Judge
thank
Tenney.
you.
Thank you.
The Personnel Committee met on November 16th, 2016. Members present, Hewsome, Sawatsky, Kelly, Hess, Virgin, Hausman, Hartlow, Haggerty, Hoffman, Mattice, Backus, Asleson, Wilczek, Hiram, and Stevens. The first item was the starting wage for the traffic engineer, but the candidate withdrew, so the position vacancy has been reposted through December 15th, 2016. The second item was proposed PTO policy for non-union employees, and they, on November 1st, 2016, the Personnel Committee of the Whole reached a consensus to move forward with implementation of a PTO policy effective January 1st, 2017. However, the policy was referred back to the Personnel Committee to finalize the details. Hess discussed the revisions made to the proposed policy language that we discussed at the Committee of the Whole, and based on the direction of the committee and in response to questions clarification from employees, these revisions include adding language regarding an expectation employees will follow department request approval procedures, the removal of the accrual rates and maximum grid for exempt full-time employees in recognition with rolling in exempt compensatory time, and the Personnel Committee of the Whole reached a consensus to roll the exempt compensatory time into the PTO policy. However, instead of offering a separate accrual rates and maximum grids for exempt employees will have more flexibility in scheduling time off for partial days. In other words, they can make those arrangements basically as two supervisory positions. The training will be provided to department heads, managers, and supervisors regarding this flexibility and exempt staff use of PTO in general, and then adding a provision for accrual of catastrophic sick leave. Personnel Committee discussed additional questions, concerns related to the proposed policy, and a consensus was reached regarding the following issues. The 302.07, the annual cash out option of 5 days prorated instead of 10 days prorated, and they can put this request in July if they want to pay out by the end of the year. And 303 was extended sick leave bank, PTO exhausted down to 15 days instead of 10 days before able to access the extended leave for illness, disability, or injury. And we had a great deal of discussion on the appropriate level of accrual rates and maximums. And as requested, has provided additional information regarding other county accruals and whether bereavement leave was rolled in to those accruals or separate and actual sick time usage by Wright County employees. Personnel Committee did not reach consensus regarding the appropriate level of accrual rates and maximums. Based on the information provided, Houston supported accrual rates of 23 days minimum to 35 days maximum. Sawatsky supported accrual rates of 21 days minimum to 34 days maximum. Both supported rolling and bereavement level or leave at these levels. Other members present voiced support of the higher accrual rates. And the recommendation was to refer outstanding issues regarding accrual rates and maximum and bereavement leave to the Personnel Committee of the whole for discussion and recommendation. And Mr. Chair, with that, I will move the minutes and the recommendation.
I'll second it.
Okay, just a couple things, because I'm going to correct them here and now, since last time we seemed to have a kind of a problem with some of the numbers, but where it says Sawatsky supported accrual rates of 21 min to 34 max, I actually supported 21 to 34, but in the end, I was going to compromise and say, if we can get this thing done today, and we roll bereavement into it, I'll relinquish. You recall it as that, Commissioner Newsom?
Yep, and I had talked about 22, but.
So I really think it ought to stay the Sawatsky support accrual rates of 21 to 33 days, because that's really what I supported, and I was willing to go to that extra one if we roll bereavement in there and just got this thing done.
So 21.
But I just want to verify that you would agree that that's kind of how it played out?
Yes.
Okay, so I want 34 to go to 33. The other thing is, relative to this annual cash out of 30207, it would appear as though that's a recommendation of the committee. And I think really what the committee wanted to do, we reduced it from 10 to 5, and we said the board needs to talk about that. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
So again, we're losing things from committee to here that are substantially changing things. And I just want to, just relative to the cash out, and I'll just kind of give you an example of how this plays out. If an employee were to not use all theirs and, for example, keep 5 days, they would get paid out at the end of the year. Now, sounds reasonable enough, it sounds simple enough, but let's say the average employee in this organization makes $52,000 a year. I don't know, Lee, that might be a fairly fair number.
Yeah, I think it's good for discussion, yeah.
You know, I mean, we've got people that make well over 100, and we've got some that maybe make starting out closer to 30 or something like that, but it's.
Oh, you're talking about this group, okay.
Overall, in general, I think in the whole organization, it might be a reasonable number, but 50 might be, oh, you might be surprised, but. So let's say it is $52,000 a year. In this group, I would venture to guess it's certainly higher than that. Certainly higher with this group. But, so 5 days would be $1,000. We have 730 employees in this organization, probably approximately, Lee? Fair number? Maybe a few more? Maybe 740, I don't know. But if every single employee kept a week on the books, and that was the average, at the end of the year, we'd have to come up with $740,000 to pay these people out of unbudgeted money. So I think we need to keep that in mind when we have that discussion, that there's a cost associated with that, and is that something we're going to budget for? Are we going to try to figure out how to come up with the end of the year or not? But just an FYI on that one, that sometimes these things seem harmless and they cost significant money.
And Mr. Chair, that would be, I mean, a lot of people are just wanting to build up their PTO time, so they wouldn't necessarily be asking for that, but it is potential.
Well-
That there is potential that,
If they cash it out.
that they could cash it out.
Now, Sunny did indicate, and she's not here, that she put that option in originally because we didn't have an extended sick bank, and then later she added an extended sick bank. She also commented that some counties have cash-out options, some don't.
Yep.
So, I mean, but that needs to go down to the discussion topic point down below. Because I don't want to get to that next meeting and have anybody tell me that we decided that one.
Yep.
I think at the meeting of the whole, it'll all be rehashed and
Well,
get better
I
understanding.
understand, but I just want it to be made now that that's one of the topic points, so.
And I would agree with Chairman Sawatsky that we took it down from 10 to 5, but we didn't say that was in for sure. I don't believe.
Yeah, and here it
I think
says the
that was part
consensus
of
was
our-
reached, you know what I mean?
Yep.
5 instead of 10, no, we knew 10 was too many, and if anything, 5 was gonna be the max, and then whether or not it's even in there is, I think the board needs to talk about, so. Okay, so Lee, do you wanna correct those minutes? As I just indicated, 34 to 33, and that discussion is part of the discussion?
Correct. I think that should be
Okay.
part of the recommendation based on your comments.
I think we've pretty much fumbled this topic all over the place. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Technology Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Technology Committee met on the 16th of November. Members present were Commissioner Leiden and Burrell, Adam Figaro, Lee Kelly, Christine Partlow, Sue Virgin, Hannah Woods, Tammy Vaith, Sherry Nelson, Olga Strobel, Connie Mae Cooper, Jen Ressett, Jim Odell, Chad Hewsome, and Steve Berg. A number of items were discussed. Everbridge, which is a program designed to notify everybody, and it has a lot more than the code red system we are currently using, which is falling by the wayside, unfortunately. And we talked a little bit about it, and actually it's going to come down under the next item, so I'm going to just hold off on that. Other than the contract is $12,400 is being funded by the departments, which are currently funding Code Red, and then years 2, 3, 4 are $26,400 annually. Funding sources for subsequent years were discussed but not finalized. But there's a lot more to come regarding that. The cellular BDAs, BDA stands for bidirectional amplifiers, and allows cellular signals to be boosted. We're having some issues in some of the buildings, such as Highway Building, where you can't be reached by your cellular phone when you're inside that building. Sometimes good, sometimes bad. When the contractors worked in some of these buildings, they've had issues, so the company that we're working with has worked with the city of Plymouth and Maple Grove, and each of those have stated that it was been a very good investment. It's been working very well for them. Also, this company also has permission from all 4 major network carriers to extend their networks, and that's what we're actually doing with these. So, recommendation of that was to proceed with the installation of cellular BDAs. Project prioritization, this was informational only. There are currently 100 projects from the various departments that are on the IT to-do list. We're just trying to figure out a way to what is the most important, and hopefully the whole idea behind the committee was to try and give some help to IT management on who's and what projects should take priority. Everybody wants theirs done first, so it's going to be up to the technology committee to help IT management decide which takes priority. And then I had asked regarding the credit card implementation. Sherry clarified that the scope of credit card implementation is currently undefined. They're going to be getting together in beginning of 2017 with different departments to discuss what it means to each of them and what their expectations are. And the results of those discussion will then be brought to the technology committee as soon as possible. With that, I will make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second that with one correction if I can, or clarification.
Okay, motion by DeWine, second by Burrell, and Charlie, the correction.
On the bidirectional amplifiers, we're going ahead with it just in the highway building right now. And if that works out, then we'll come back and go start looking at the rest of the county buildings.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion carries unanimous. And what are we down to, River Rider?
No.
Everbridge contract.
Mr. Chair, as mentioned in the technology minutes, the technology committee recommended moving forward with Everbridge. And what you have on the agenda today is the contract quote for both 2017 and then into 2018 and 2020.
Do you need that in two motions, Lee?
Well, didn't we just approve the contract since it was one of the recommendations? Or not?
We didn't
If you're
really,
comfortable with that, we can move forward with signatures. I'd put it as a separate item to authorize signatures. I guess it's your comfort level, but
we really didn't approve the contract.
Yeah, I was just going by that there.
Yeah. I'll make a motion that we approve the contract with Everbridge.
I'll second it.
Motion by Commissioner Burrell, second by Commissioner Delight. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
That will be motion for both years, okay? Mark, you
I understood it.
That's what's in the contract, right?
Yeah, where the contract states.
Okay. Yeah. Well, and our long historic wind down has come into completion here, just about with River Rider. Lee, it looks like everybody's got the document.
Yes, Mr. Chair, in your packet should be the documents that were provided to us by the Black Law Firm who's been assisting in closing out the affairs of River Rider. This dissolution agreement is in front of you, which has already been, I don't believe it's been in front of the Sherburne County Board as of yet.
Today, was that?
I believe that my last discussion with the Sherburne administrator, they were going to sign it on the 13th of December, so. But every indication they're fully intent on signing it. You will note towards the back there is a breakdown of how the funds from River Rider will be distributed, and that will be coming to Wright County following the signatures of both counties. So I don't have a significant amount of information to add other than that, but.
Well, just if you look and see the back, just so there's full understanding, and maybe you want to, I don't know if we need to document this in the minutes or not, but you see the number. We've obviously got a checking account and a savings account, and they equal the number of $368,076.42. The payment to Wright County for buses, that was a payment that was sent to River Rider by Trailblazer for 20% of the value on the books of the buses that got transferred, the 9 buses that got transferred there. So the state paid 80% of those buses originally. River Rider paid 20% of those buses. However, we had 13 buses over there, and Charlie and I and Bruce and Rachel and the other members of the board over there agreed that 9 of them were going to be Wright County's buses and 4 of them were going to be Sherburne's buses. So 9 went to Trailblazer. Their value left after depreciation was a number, I presume then 5 times larger than this 36,000, and we got 20% of it because we had paid 20% of it. River Rider had originally, so that's what that number represents. I did get an email, I think I mentioned this to some folks here before, some time ago from one of the WCAT officials down in the southwest part of the county asking why we made Trailblazer pay for it, and my response was because those buses belong to Wright County, and Charlie and I didn't have the authority to just say Trailblazer can have them. So that's why we got a check for them here. So then after that is the 331,406.42 number, and 2/3 of that is ours, 1/3 is Sherburne. It looks like Sherburne kind of got the 1 penny advantage on rounding if you look at that, the rounding component of it there. So we gave them the rounding component, but
people.
So those are the numbers. Now, another critical part of this is go to number 7 here. Number 7 on page 3 of 5, capital and operating fund balances. The parties agree that the law firm of Black, Johnson, Kaufman, Bluston Limited shall retain and administer any remaining account balances to pay outstanding obligations related to River Rider that continue to exist through December 31st to December 31st, 2016. Any balance remaining after payment of all outstanding obligations arising during this termination period shall be allocated pursuant to the above and returned to collaborating counties. So basically, there's still a small amount of money. We understand, according to Shelley, that in the audit, it was determined that the state owed us like about 3,400, or was it 4,300, Charlie?
Something in that area.
34, yeah, sounds right. I
remember a 3 and a 4 in there, so I don't know. So in the $3,000 to $4,000 range, that it was told to us that they still actually owed us, and a check was going to be coming. So that is the money that funds the actions in item 7. This $3,000 to $4,000 that Shelley the attorney, Shelley Bluston, believes that we're going to be getting will fund anything of close. For example, we had to make the former director a final payout for services that he provided in closing this thing down. We made a final payout. There needs to be a 1099 written up for that final payout. So Shelley, or the accountant, will probably charge us $100 or so, a couple $100 to, hopefully it isn't much more than that, to create a 1099 and send to them. That needs to be done yet. And there's $3,000 to $4,000 that is to be coming from MnDOT. Maybe it's can't come by now, but it wasn't there when we met last. But again, Shelley believed it was coming, and that anything's going to come out of that $3,000 to $4,000 to pay for any. If Shelley has a small little bill to do something, comes out of that. Then when it's all done, let's say there's $2,400 left. Wright gets $1,600, for example. Sherburne would get $800, hypothetically. So that's what number 7 means. If things go as we believe they go, nobody should be writing a check back over there. It should be taking care of itself with that money from MnDOT, unless that check don't come, we believe it's coming. So I don't know, Charlie, did you have anything to add?
Nope, that's it.
Has the motion been made this time?
Nope.
I'll make a motion to approve this resolution of joint powers.
I'll second it.
Motion by Commissioner Delight, second by Commissioner Potter. Any further discussion? It appears to be in resolution format. Commissioner Burrell?
Aye.
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 Resolution carries unanimous. Okay, we're going to be getting a check for $257,000 here in the future. At that time, I guess the board's going to have to decide what they're going to do with that. Bob?
Just a clarification, Board, Pat, you may know this. Are there restrictions on those funds?
Yeah.
The majority of those funds are going to need to be used for transit
Yeah.
issues. Any funds that were provided to River Rider from Wright County via general levy that we gave to them, any funds, and not for buses, because those buses would have worn out. I'm guessing buses don't count, but anything that we gave originally for operations could come back to the county with no strings attached.
Okay.
That would require you to do some, and I don't know how easy it is to go back and just check and see whatever we sent to them and what the purpose of it was over the last 20 years.
Right.
But we wouldn't have to go back that long because that organization didn't exist that long, but.
Well, Mr. Chair, we went back to 1993. Checks issued to River Rider were just contributions that we received from the cities. Is there somebody else that we would have written checks
Well,
to?
but the county did themselves on a few years levy a little bit of money that got sent over there, and you would have found it in the human services budget, not in the general budget.
I'm just wondering if it was issued to not River Rider, but something else. But we'll continue to keep looking.
River Rider.
River Rider, yeah.
But Bob, for many years, we haven't put any money into it because it's sustained itself.
Right.
But I'm just thinking maybe the first couple of years, there could have been some seed money put in there.
Right.
Then
Could
you
it have
can
been
go
prior to
back.
93?
What's that?
Could it have been prior to 93?
No.
Okay, because we went back to 93 to look for River Rider.
And see, when it originally started, River Rider was run by Sherburne, and we actually paid them for service, so Not whether or not we can take anything that the county may have paid them for service when we contracted services from them and repay ourselves back for that, I'm not sure.
Okay, so we'll look for Sherburne County as well.
But you'll find somewhere probably around 2000 is when Wright County became part of the joint powers. Originally, it was just River Rider, we contracted for service. Then somewhere maybe around 2000, shortly thereafter, then we started the joint powers agreement.
Okay.
And then we were equal partners with them, so to speak.
Second thing, clarification, since there's going to be restriction on this, I would like to receipt those return of funds into the capital projects fund. I'm not sure that we'll set up a unique department in there, but we're going to track, we're not going to put them into the general fund because that gets rolled out. So we're going to put those funds in the capital projects funds.
They just need to be somewhere in their own fund.
Yep.
Okay.
And maybe the board doesn't do anything with them for many, many months.
Yeah.
You know?
Years.
And, well, many, many months can turn into years. But, because I don't think now bear in mind, Bob, somebody from the state might call you and tell you to turn that money over to them. I would ignore those emails or letters.
I'll just inform them.
And do as Commissioner Burrell did and ask them where the
Legal
legal justification is for that, because we've.
Seem to have a hard time coming up with that.
Any further discussion? Commissioner Burrell,
No, nothing.
do you vote though?
We did.
Oh, did we vote all the way down the line?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was roll call.
Okay, we voted, okay, sorry.
But I have nothing for advisory committee.
In the interest of time, I don't either.
Okay, I'll pass.
I'll pass.
Well,
There's always one of
I was at the Emergency Medical Services Advisory Council, and they're working on this, still on this pulse point, which I had mentioned earlier, that they've got the app on your phone, so if someone has a cardiac arrest, goes into cardiac arrest, you can punch in your app and it'll direct you to the closest AED. And they're trying to compile all the AEDs in the county so they can input that. We already talked about code red switching to, we're discontinuing that to
Connie,
Everbridge.
are you in a hurry? I'd like to talk to you just a second.
And distracted driving, they're getting an active campaign for 2017. We had a fairly long discussion on Narcan, and there's only 4 agencies out of the 22 in Wright County that have applied for the Narcan grant, or to have the training and to get the drug itself. So we had some discussion about that, and there is an EMT initial course at Alina in Buffalo on Tuesday and Thursday evenings, beginning Tuesday, January 10th through the end of March from 6:30 to 10:30, if anyone's interested in doing an EMT course. Safe Communities of Wright County, we had a nice grant coming up. There's not quite 100 women who care yet enrolled in this, but it's actually Carla Heater is getting 100 women who care together and giving 4 times a year. That equates to $10,000, and the first recipient of our monies, which isn't quite that much money, but is Safe Communities of Wright County. So that's really a wonderful thing. We've had 7 fatalities so far this year, and they did a student survey, and just in Wright County, to give a little indication of seatbelt use, and I'll just give a couple of these, but how often do you wear a seatbelt when you ride the front seat of your car? And in 9th grade, males say 88%, females 87%. 11th grade, 87% of males and 93% of females use their seatbelts. So, which is really wonderful, but of course, that's what part of our grant money through the regional EMS gets their money, and so that's been we have to figure out different ways to fund programs and grants. And Chairman Sawatsky, got a nice plaque last night at Central Minnesota. Yep. Mental health. So we had a good meeting and approved a budget for next year. We also, it's encouraging, and also Bruce Anderson from Sherburne County is retiring also, so they got.
His plaque
nice
wasn't quite as
recognition.
nice though, because
It
it
wasn't.
had an error on it,
No,
so.
it had an error, so, when they took a picture, he had to kind of cover up the date, but, so, and, yeah. Certainly, Chairman Swatsky has a good memory and remembers 24 years ago when he went on the board and shared some information about that, but,
Well, one of my tricks is if I don't remember, I just make it up.
okay, and nobody will know, because we
Yeah,
weren't
exactly, 'cause
there.
nobody else was there.
But Dr. Lee has just
That's
been.
been your trick all along,
Yeah,
hasn't
I
it?
know. We just think he's got a great memory. I don't know.
I can't do that here because Susan's been around nearly as long as I am,
okay,
so she called me on it.
Dr. Lee continues to look at programs and buildings and, good use of space and what's working, what's
These
not
guys
working.
would call me on
so,
it.
yeah.
Those two, they were here, they've been here longer.
So anyway.
John.
Yeah.
John was here before I was here.
Really?
Yeah. I think John was
Okay.
here before Ed was here. No. No? Well, Lane Wilson used to come for a while though. How, remember? Didn't he used to do the journal? Or maybe only when you were gone, Ed. Maybe that's all it was, huh? Okay.
Maybe.
Just when you were gone, yeah.
But that's about it. Update.
Okay.
Unless you had anything to add about the meeting?
No, so how many years have you been coming, John? About 27, 28? Well, I've been here 26. In a month, it'll be 26, and you were here before me, so. But how many years of Basil? 1. So you were here 27. And Ed?
I never got a cut.
Really?
Never got a, I don't have a 27-year cut, but I think I have a 5 or a 10-year cut that I could probably.
Yeah.
Ed, how many years have you been coming to these meetings? Oh, my goodness.
So-
33 years.
So he's got paper documents to support anything you may or may not say.
Yeah. Have to dig through it.
Okay, there being no further business, we are adjourned at 10:47 a.m.